Welcome to Beit Yakwan, the Shabbat, or actually Motzei Shabbat, I believe it is. We're dealing with these Zeitgeist people who have tried to, through saying that Horus and Krishna and Buddha and Prometheus and all these had various connections with Jesus Christ. For example, they all had heads and they were all living, well, I would say they were all human beings, but actually no. Most of them were not considered human beings, they considered them myths. But anyway, they were connection. And one thing they tried to do is undermine the historicity of our Lord Jesus Christ, Yahushua, Mashiach. So here is some evidence for that. We're dealing with a book called The Search for Messiah by a scholar who was living went to visit Jerusalem and did a study for the rabbis and for the Jewish people so that they could know about where Jesus comes in the Jewish sources. So here is some of what he has to say about the historicity of Jesus Christ. As a first-year college student at the age of 18, I was told by a Jewish friend of mine that Jesus of Nazareth was a non-historical figure, a hoax, contrived by a group of crafty co-conspirators in the 1st or 2nd century. This effort to explain away the historical existence of Jesus of Nazareth has actually been seriously promoted by scholars for centuries. In fact, this is a common answer given in modern Jewish homes when a child asks who was Jesus or who was Yeshua. For years, this explanation for the Jesus question seemed reasonable. However, my comfort level was eventually disturbed by some nagging questions. Why would the Roman government brutally persecute peaceful followers of a non-historical figure? Why were tens of thousands of first-century Christians, almost exclusively Jewish believers in Jesus, who lived within the 40 years of the mythical events, willingly suffer the loss of all possessions and status, and be murdered for a myth? Why would Saul of Tarsus, a Jewish Pharisee, a leader of the Jews, be willing to give up everything and join the crowd that he had admittedly been persecuting? These are some of the questions that the myth theory doesn't satisfactorily explain. Obviously, if Jesus of Nazareth was his true historical figure, and if he truly was who his disciples claimed he was, then there should be historical references to his existence other than the New Testament. As we search for the extra-biblical, i.e. non-Christian sources for the existence of Jesus, or Yeshua, we will discover that the skeptic hasn't a leg to stand on when he argues that Jesus was a non-historical figure. There are numerous historical references to Yeshua, Jesus, from both neutral and antagonistic sources as early as mid-1st century. Secular historical references to Jesus of Nazareth. When a historian sets out to prove the historical existence of an individual, he seeks out a number of sources. Perhaps the most reliable sources of historical evidence are from those who were not sympathetic to the person or his cause. A source that is either indifferent or antagonistic to Jesus or the church could not be accused of bias, and therefore part of the evil plot to create a mythical figure. As we look at the historical references, we will try to focus mainly on such historic sources. Flavius Josephus. Joseph ben Matthias was born in the year 37 CE and died around 100 CE. As the son of a Jewish priest, he eventually became a priest himself and a member of the Pharisee sect of Judaism. In 64 CE, he went to Rome to secure the release of certain priests and became convinced that Rome could not be defeated by the Jewish revolt, which began in 66 CE and ended in 70 CE. When Jerusalem was sacked by the Romans. In July 67 CE, he was captured by the Rome and was eventually hired as a scribe and an interpreter by the Roman government. At that time, he was given the name Flavius Josephus by his Roman associates and wrote under that name. In 70 CE, he rode into Jerusalem with the Roman general Titus and observed the annihilation of Jerusalem. Josephus recorded incredibly graphic details about the destruction of Jerusalem, as well as the crucifixion and death of millions of Jews. There are three passages in his writings that are pertinent to Christianity. In his Antiquities of the Jews, Book 18, Chapter 3, Paragraph 3, he makes a comment about Jesus of Nazareth. Here is the source. Now there was about this time Jesus, a wise man, if it be lawful to call him a man. For he was a doer of wonderful works, a teacher of such men as received truth with pleasure. He drew over to him both many of the Jews and many of the Gentiles. He was the Christ. And when Pilate, at the suggestion of principal men among us, had condemned him to the cross, those that loved him at first did not forsake him. For he appeared to them alive again the third day, as the divine prophets had foretold these and 10,000 other wonderful things concerning him. And the tribe of Christians so named from him are not extinct to this day. And we can confirm they're not extinct to this day. We're still here, folks. Josephus verifies that Jesus was a historical figure who was crucified by Pontius Pilate, that he had a great day following, did miracles, a great following, did miracles and rose from the dead, and on the third day. He does not attempt to explain away the historicity of Jesus of Nazareth, nor does he try to explain away the miracles of his resurrection from the dead. Consequently, this is an incredibly valuable historical reference to Jesus of Nazareth. Needless to say, because of its testimony of Jesus, this passage is commonly called the Testimonium Flavianum, or Flavianum, a very controversial passage. Critics have claimed that it was a Christian insertion. However, there is strong evidence from ancient manuscripts that this passage was in the original. It is present in all of the extant ancient manuscripts and was quoted by early church fathers such as Eusebius as early as 325 CE. For a detailed discussion of the debate on the authenticity of this passage, see He Walked Among Us, Josh McDowell, Bill Wilson, Here's Life Publishers, page 37. The main points of contention are the statements, He was the Messiah, if it be lawful to call him a man, and he appeared to them alive again the third day. Josephus, described as an Orthodox Jew by some scholars, was apparently never converted to Christianity. Origen, a 3rd century Christian, states twice that Josephus did not believe in Jesus as the Christ. Therefore, opponents argue that it is very unlikely that he would ever say these things of Jesus. Most historians do, however, believe that the references to Jesus of Nazareth being a wise man, a doer of wonderful works, and being crucified under Pontius Pilate are valid portions of Josephus' original work. A complete 4th century Arabic version of Josephus' Antiquities of the Jews, which contains the Testimonium, includes basically the same content as the above text with a couple of very slight variations. Instead of saying he was the Christ, it says he was so called the Christ. At this time there was a wise man who was called Jesus, and his conduct was good, and he was known to be virtuous, and many people from among the Jews and other nations became his disciples. Pilate condemned him to be crucified and to die, and those who had become his disciples did not abandon his discipleship. They reported that he had appeared to them 3 days after his crucifixion, and he was alive. Accordingly, he was perhaps the Messiah, concerning which the prophets have recounted wonders. Shlomo Pina's an Arabic version of the Testimonium Flavianum and its implications, Jerusalem Academic Press, 1971. This very ancient copy of Antiquities increases significantly the reliability of that Josephus did, in fact, make historical reference to Jesus of Nazareth. Although there are significant stylistic differences in this Arabic version, the basic elements of the Greek version are preserved in this text. Jesus is described as a historical figure who was crucified under Pontius Pilate. Regarding the messiahship of Jesus, he is described in more neutral terms, stating he was perhaps the Messiah. Finally, this version confirms that Jesus was an excellent character, that he gathered many disciples to himself, and that Christians were still in existence at his time. This version can hardly be criticized as a Christian fabrication. Okay, so we see Josephus. We will see other evidence in a moment. Jesus is Lord. Yahweh be with you.